Diagnose Ineffizienz. Wir verschreiben kollegiales Teamwork.
Herzlich willkommen im Krankenhaus St. Joseph Braunau. Jetzt bewerben als Ärztin oder Arzt für Innere Medizin. khbr.at/Karriere.
The mighty and resilient Merrimack River, carving through the communities of our great region. My name is Linda Lorden, proud president of Merrimack County Savings Bank. And like the river that serves as our namesake, we're a constant yet ever-changing presence. Because to us, it's bigger than banking. It's about powering communities and putting people first. It's about knowing where you came from and where you're going. That's Merrimack style. Visit us at themerrimack.com.
Welcome to the Law of Attraction Tribe. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith. I went from being a miserable corporate employee to becoming a podcaster, app creator, and best-selling author, all through the power of the Law of Attraction. So join me for bite-sized episodes where I simplify the manifestation process and help you manifest a life you don't need a vacation from. So buckle up, keep an open mind, and get ready to create your dream reality. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I just had one of the best conversations, one of the deepest conversations I've had in forever, and it's so refreshing. If you know me, you know, like I can't stand small talk. Like I just want to dive right in, and that is what I did with my guest, Coach JV. We went from like 0 to 100. We go deep, we go super spiritual. So we start talking about religion and tying it to the law of attraction. And he gives like his perspective of it, which is so unique and so different from pretty much anything I've heard so far. And it was just one of those conversations where I'm like, oh my God, I could talk to him all day long. And so I think you guys are going to really love this one. So the guy that I'm interviewing, he goes by the name Coach JV. And he has kind of a dark beginning to his story, but he found the law of attraction the same way I did, which was The Secret. So like I just knew we were going to hit it off. But yeah, he went from attempting suicide to becoming the founder and operator of 7+ companies. So there's Freedom Asset Management Company, and that specializes in scaling businesses to their highest potential. He co-founded a company called Merlin, which is like this revolutionary crypto tracker, and it's completely changing the industry. So he has like more than seven companies. He also has 2 books. He's a top podcast host, social media influencer with over 2 million combined subscribers, and a featured powerhouse leader in multiple publications. He's been in Irish Tech News, Yahoo Finance, Business Insider, Apple News, and News Nation USA. He's just like the most incredible, beautiful soul. And like I said, buckle up because we go deep and spiritual. So if you're into that kind of thing, which I think everyone listening probably is, then you're going to absolutely love this. So let's go ahead and introduce Coach JV. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning back in. Coach JV, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you. And I know you and I have had a similar, well, not completely similar, but we both started our law of attraction journey with The Secret. But you started in a really dark place, and you've come a long way, not only getting out of that, but creating tremendous success. So maybe you can just give everyone a little bit of background on your story.
Yeah, such an honor to start with that. So, I mean, The Secret's right over my shoulder right here on my right side. I have it with me all the time, and I carry it often when I travel as well. The Secret was something I woke up to after an attempted suicide on December 18, 2006. So I had never really had access to any type of coaching around mindset, even spirituality, like no access to. I knew Christmas was Santa Claus and Easter Bunny. And so I had really no spiritual background, no connection with God, didn't understand anything about the internal to the external. And after my suicide, actually what happened was I took a massive amount of opiates, attempted suicide, and I woke up to the phone ring, and the old razor flip phones back in 2006 had like a distinct ring to it. And I'm thinking, and thoughts become things. The first thought that I had was I can't even kill myself correctly. So that's pretty deep, right? And that's
Wow.
first thought that I had. And then I stumbled over. I was still really, really induced with opiates. It's about 48 hours later. And I look on the phone, it says mom across the front of it, that little window. And I open it up, and my mom says, I don't know what my mom's a very classy lady. But she says, I don't know what the F is going on with you, but your grandma read a book called The Secret. You should read it. And that's how I woke up from my attempted suicide. She had no idea. She woke me up from attempted suicide. I didn't tell anybody I was going to in that type of place. And so I stumbled. God, I had this totally different lifestyle back then. I get in my car, I go down there, I go to Barnes and Nobles, and I get the book, The Secret. And I put that DVD, you used to have the little thing you put inside of your computer, the DVD thing, and I watched it, and I sat there and I was like, oh my gosh. Oh, I get chills every time I talk about it. Everything I asked for, I got, to include my suicide. It was all created by me. It was all a facade. It was all an illusion that I created. There was no, the darkness was being created by me, by my thoughts, and I didn't understand it at that time. Now I understand it 17 years later, that the reason why I thought that I wasn't worth it is because I didn't understand it doesn't come from external to internal. It comes from internal to external. And so I was chasing this invisible thing that didn't exist, this line in the sand that would never be fulfilled. And yeah, it started. I read the book. I watched the DVD, then I read the book, and it was like, oh my gosh. And I just started thinking, well, now at this point, I've lost my business. I woke up from attempted suicide. I couldn't even take care of my 3-year-old daughter. I was a horrible father at that point in my life, massive opiate addiction. And I was like, well, pretty much maybe I had a better chance because I'm on my back looking up. So I'm like, all I can do is trust this thing, The Secret. And so I just started doing affirmations. That's what I did. I rehabbed myself. I was like, I'm powerful. I am strong. I am beautiful. I'm worthy. And I just kept saying that. And I remember I was sitting in my apartment. It was completely empty. I had sold everything. I'd lost everything. And I sat in there, went through this rehab process myself, which I shouldn't have done. I would never recommend that to anybody. I was very sick. I was very embarrassed. I didn't want to tell anybody what happened.
Mhm.
And I remember 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the edge of my bed. I got up one morning, and very close to being evicted from my apartment. I'm like, well, I looked around. I felt normal for a moment in time. Like, huh, I feel, and I had been doing this every day. I'm powerful. I'm strong. I'm worthy. And then I went outside, and I always smile when I think about it. I went outside and went for a walk. And I remember I was like, oh, those flowers are, those are beautiful flowers. And I've never said that in my life. I'm like, did I just say flowers are beautiful? Like, those are pretty. And I started to see things differently. And then I used to go sit at this thing called Val Vista Lakes, and I would sit there and I would imagine, like, I would close my eyes. And my daughter was 3 at the time. My son's 8, so he wasn't born. And I was like, man, I can picture us living like this. So I'd picture us barbecuing outside. When I say us, I figured at some point I'd have more kids, and pictured my daughter being older and us, getting out, going on the lake boat and stuff like that. And I would just do that every single day. And then all of a sudden, life started to unfold. And, I ended up getting, I'll leave it at that right there. That was my pathway to it. And so what I do want to say, what was interesting, I has never had exposure to, like, I was never taught about spirituality or God or how to pray or anything. But the last thing I did was pray right before I committed suicide.
Mm.
And so I thought that was interesting. So to me, The Secret was my gateway to my relationship with Christ and God. So
Same, 100% the
Mhm.
same. I didn't
Mhm.
grow up with religion or anything. My dad was abused in the church, so it's like I'm not going to let my kids go near that kind of thing. So I didn't grow up with that, and I think looking back, that's probably what made me so open-minded to get very into the law of attraction
Mhm.
and just be very open to these concepts that a lot of other people can be guarded on. But it's so funny because mother's intuition, right? Like
Yeah.
my mom is who introduced me to The Secret as
No
well.
way. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Now I wasn't suicidal,
Mhm.
but I was feeling very not worthy. I had just had my daughter,
Mm.
and all these thoughts of like, I can't give her what I had as a kid, so
Right.
how, like, she deserves so much more, and how am I going to do that? I don't know, it's impossible, like that kind of mindset.
Mhm.
And it was such a struggle because my mom's my best friend. She was living 6 hours away, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, I have this book and I'm sending it to you, and you have to read it. Like, it's just, I feel like you just need to read it. And man, like I called her right away. I was like, this changed my life, and it did. And so it's like mother's intuition, like they
Yeah.
know. And
They
just interesting.
They do. I mean, they're yeah, a mother, the matrix, the womb, they're the creators. Women are the creators of the world, right? So they know what we need in the essence of. That's the secret. It's like it's the essence of how humanity works, right? And it just goes, and I've been studying this for 17 years now, like started with the secret, then going really deep into like then now I go deep into the Bible. I think the Bible is the greatest book ever written, which is to me is a living, breathing organism, not a history book, which a
Mhm.
lot of, I believe, the teachings of Rhonda Bryan came from the secret. And if you go deeper and deeper, the secret is within the Bible. It's within all religious texts. It's there's meditation, there's manifestation, and it's all there. And when you talk about the secret, people are like, oh, that's so esoteric. It's well, everything is esoteric. It's internal.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
all from internal. That's the things we're experiencing within our current reality. It's all this, it's a belief system that the esoteric, that some savior's going to come out of the sky on a horse to save us, and we're waiting for Trump to come back and save us. When right now we can reframe our thoughts. Right
Yes.
now, right now we can fix it right now.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. And it is interesting because in all the years since I first read that book, I think that all the time when I love like learning about ancient civilizations and like stuff like that. I
Yes.
think it's so interesting, but it's so weird how every religion, I mean, it does weave these principles into it. And of course, they don't call it the law of attraction, but I mean,
Mhm.
it's throughout a lot of ancient texts. And when I first picked up the book, that quote from the Emerald Tablet that's on the
Mm.
front,
Yeah.
my I still to this day I can't describe it in words, but it was like I just all of a sudden I had this like inner knowing that like this I know this already. This is it was like I was remembering something,
Mm.
and so I think I've been throughout all of these ancient texts, and Rhonda Byrne, man, she brought it to the
Yes.
masses. A lot of people
Yes.
complain like, well, it didn't have everything. Da, da, da. No, she
Mm.
she woke up the masses to this concept, and I just
Mhm.
think it's like the greatest book for that reason.
I love how when you watch the story, or if you go, I think it's on Netflix now, I think, right? You can watch
Yeah.
The Secret. If anybody hasn't watched it, when you watch it, they did such a great job portraying like this ancient secret. It truly is. You brought up the Emerald Tablets, right? Thoth, the Atlantean leader, like he thought Thoth, right? He said, I reincarnated 10 times, 100, 1,000 times, right? And we had Jesus who came 2,000 years ago, who was a Gnostic redeemer, was knowing he was a Gnostic redeemer. He was reframing the knowledge. He left for 18 years. Nobody ever asked where Jesus went for 18 years. So think about this, right? We become friends, right? And you disappear. Stephanie's gone you're just like, boom, you disappear for 18 years. And then you come riding back on a donkey with Birkenstocks and a sheet around you. I'd be like, Stephanie, where the hell have you been?
Right.
Nobody asked where Jesus was at. It goes deep. And
Hmm.
he came back, and what did he do? He inverted the teachings. He took the Old Testament and made it the New Testament, the secret. He actually said, you're made in the likeness of image. Isn't the kingdom of heaven? It's within you. And he says, if your eye be single, your body be filled with light. The pineal gland. Jacob saw God face to face. He called it pineal. He fell asleep on a rock. He saw 33 rungs, 33 rungs in the spine, right? He saw a light. And so Jesus, and they keep telling us in the Bible, it's the light within you. It's within
Yes.
every single person. And whoever they are, this is whatever it is, this boogeyman everybody's chasing. They think that, oh, this elite group of people is trying to stop us from. No, nobody's trying to stop you. Like you right now, repent means renewing of the mind. That's what repenting means. People, you can like literally be sitting on your couch, listen to this podcast, get off this podcast, and start to renew your mind,
Hmm.
reframe your thoughts, right? And I feel like, I love that you brought up the Emerald Tablets. I'm deep in the Emerald Tablets and the Gospel of 12 and in the Bible as well. I respect all religions and all belief systems because I believe I had this moment, and I think I want to share. I know I want to share this. So I work with a deep spiritual coach, and I'm realizing you said something powerful too. I believe exactly what you said. I don't think I'm trying to figure anything out. I'm trying to re-remember what I already know. Like, I love that you said that. I've never heard anybody else say that because I feel like the more I tap in and tune in, it's something that I'm like, oh, I know that. And so
Hmm.
we're sitting out in the forest where you're going on a hike. And I was like, hey, man, I said, who is God? I'm like, who is God? And he looks me deep in the eyes. He goes, you know who God is. And I'm like, that's why I'm asking the question. He's like, you know who God is. He goes, let me reframe the question. Do you believe that God and Christ are perfect? I said, yes, I do. I do. I believe God is perfection. Christ is perfection, and he said, how would it, God, whatever you believe it is, know that it is perfect? And I was like, just think about it. If something is perfect, it's perfection, it's creation, then how would it know it's perfect? He
It
said,
needs that polarity,
through
right?
you, through you. He's
Yeah.
like, God only understands imperfection through its experience through the human body, the hue of light, a human experiencing. Adam and Eve were perfect in the garden, perfect, perfection. Eve eats from the tree. All of a sudden, a snake comes up, a talking snake, and tells her she's naked. So now they go from God consciousness, boom, to self-conscious. Then they go get the leaves, right? They put the leaves on, and now then they separate. Oh, you're a man, I'm a woman. Then the two become one to create life. We go from God consciousness to self-consciousness, and our whole living experience as a human, we're working to transmute that darkness back to light. Emerald tablets make the path to light difficult so the weak and weary will not follow. So when you realize that you're not weak and you're not weary, that you can, you will, you must, I am the great I am, then you start to become empowered, which raises the energy, the kundalini, whatever you want to call it, the energy centers. And then once you tap in and tune in, once you master the centers and you get to the light, your eye be single and your body fills with light, then you realize you're made in the likeness and image. Not that you're not God, or you're not above anybody. You're literally staring at this. So now what I did for my own life, I'm like, wow. So what if, I don't know, but what if you're God experiencing imperfection and I'm God experiencing imperfection? How would I treat you? Unconditional love. If I saw God face to face, I'd be humbled. I'd be like, oh my God, Jacob saw God face to face. Moses got pretty close. And I just feel like The Secret helped me read the Bible in a different context where it was like, it's called The Secret for a reason because it's not a secret.
Join us at the Creation Museum on September 20th for Beyond Bones, The Truth About Dinosaurs. This special one-day conference is all about these magnificent creatures of the past. So whether you're a dinosaur enthusiast or just have questions about how to understand dinosaurs from a biblical worldview, this conference is for you. Recommended for ages 12 and up, but all ages are welcome. Register at getanswers.org/beyond-bones.
I
Yeah.
love that you said you're re-remembering because that's how, like, I have a son who's turning 8 right now. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, turning 9. He's in between 8 and 9, and a child from birth to 8 has a subconscious mind, and around 8 to 9 they become conscious. So now he's becoming conscious, right? So he's like, huh, you and mom don't live together. So he's like, he was unaware of that. He was just existing in the current
Right.
reality. Now he's like, huh. Now he's starting to forget everything that he knows, right? And now does that make sense? So he's just like, now he's like, you and mom. And so instead of being like, that's the way it is, I'm like, well, here's my thought process. How do you feel about it? Oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. You guys get along and everything's okay, good. There's no, it's not like that's the way it is because he's trying to create and remember why he's here and
Yeah.
why he picked us. I don't know that I love these types of conversations. I could go deep down this rabbit hole, but
Oh, me too. And
yeah.
I have a 3, 4, and 15-year-old. So it's like
Wow.
I'm totally in that process. But with my 15-year-old, I didn't get deep into, like, I was introduced to The Secret while she was a baby, like she was just
Mm,
born. But then The Secret led me down this whole other path of getting like super deep into the subconscious mind and how it
yes.
works. Cause I've always been interested in science, and I
Mm.
like to find, you know, I think science is starting to back up a lot of these
Oh
spiritual
yeah.
concepts with like quantum
Mhm.
entanglement and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But anyways, getting into the subconscious mind, I think about that pretty much every day because my
Yes.
kids are 3 and 4, and I'm like, they are a walking subconscious right now. Like
Yes.
they're taking
Yep.
in everything. So I try to be like so mindful
Mm.
of what I'm saying and what's going on in our home, just knowing like a lot of that's going to go to really form these beliefs that they're going
Mhm.
to carry
Mhm.
with them, throughout their life. Um, but anyhow, speaking of remembering,
Yeah.
this is like the weird. I'm just going to share this real quick because it kind of like was just like, what just happened? So my daughter, who's 4,
Yeah.
we've never known anyone. She's never known anyone that's died, like since she's
Mm.
been born. So we haven't had that conversation with her yet and
Sure.
explained what dying is. Like it's never been a thing. And the other day, she's at my mom's house and she sees this picture of my grandpa, and she says, is that your dad? And my mom's like,
Mm.
yeah, that's my dad. And she said, how did he die, or when did he die? Like she just knew he wasn't around anymore. My mom said, oh, a very long time ago.
Mhm.
I was young. And she's like, well, did it make you really sad when he died? And my mom was like, well, yeah, I was sad. It's sad, when that happens to people. And she said, yeah, I had a sister once that died, and it was very sad. And my mom's like, what?
Oh,
Like, and so she calls me. She's like, I don't know if she saw something on TV or if this is like a past life, or like, I don't know what's going on, but I just want you to be aware. And it made me think of what we're talking about here with that remembering. And it's like,
yeah.
I think kids up to that certain age, they do kind of like tap into this greater knowledge, and I think they lose that after being here on earth and being like so in the masculine side of our brain and that kind of thing. But it just made me think, like, is she remembering something? Like, is she still tapped into something that we lose as we get older?
Oh, I completely, man, this is full alignment. So I always say from 0 to 8, like from 0 to 8, we know who we are. From 8 to 80, we forget who we are. Right. It's like it's
Oh,
and so and then
wow.
at 80, you're like, I just said I can't make that up. It's on all kinds of videos.
I have the
From,
chills
yeah,
right
from
now, like
and
goosebumps.
then at 80, you're like, you're back to being like a child. You're in diapers and people are taking care of you and you don't give a shit. Like you don't care. You speak your mind. You're like, this is what I want. This is, and
Hmm.
then this is so intriguing because I think about like you said, I think about consciousness all the time. I'm studying Christ consciousness as much as I can handle. At some point, it's like too much. But my point behind that is as you spoke of about children. Children, Jesus said to get in the kingdom of heaven is to be like these lowly children. Why? Because your daughter's tapped in and tuned in. She probably has been in a former life where that did happen, and she's not disconnected from that. And it probably is because you as a mother are very conscious of her mindset and so she's able to stay in that state of mind for a longer period of time. Like my daughter, I'm trying to get emotional when I talk about it. She's 20 now. She's a beautiful young lady. But when my daughter, it's always, I forgive myself. We've gone through the grief and stuff, but when she was from birth to like 4, I was a massive opiate addict, right? And I was a functional addict. And if you've ever seen a functional addict, I mean, you don't care about anything but the drug. So just say I was a bad father. I was a good father in the fact that I was there and took care of her. But like, I mean, one day she was in her dirty diaper for a full day while I was trying to get drugs. Like, I mean, she'd be dragging her in, and I'm being transparent. It's like it was a very bad situation. But
Mhm.
my point behind that, from her birth to, man, about 5 years old, for all her being, I didn't know anything about subconscious mind. I mean, think about what I programmed into her mind. Absolute chaos, absolute destruction, lies, like all this stuff. And my son was born as I was going through my big time awakening. Like it took me a while to really awaken. With the secret, when around 2012, I really that was about 6 years later, I started to really awaken to this quantum, like you said, quantum
Me
entanglement. But
too, like right
yeah,
around that time.
yeah. Well, it's interesting that time and I speak a lot about macro and microeconomics and the shift of energy in society and wealth and stuff, and basically wealth paradigm shifting. 2012 was a big year. The Mayan calendar ended. CERN Hadron Collider was started. The FOMC was created. The non-bank financial institutions regulation. The bank bail-in committee was created. Obama turned on the rescue plan, full blast, the machine, full blast. Rosie Rios, the 43rd Treasurer of the United States, said that she was told to reduce coin and cash usage. So 2012 was like this big boom quantum shift. And that's when everything started to shift. And then this year has been big. April 8th, 2024. Everybody, a lot of, people, I believe in Christ, but people are like, Jesus is going to come out of the sky, the resurrection. Christ told us about this time. Christ was awakened. Obviously, he was awakened, but he said a man with a pitcher is coming, which is Aquarius, which is September. We're going to go into full Aquarius in September. And so those who understand manifestation, subconscious mind programming, connecting to the field, like you said, the energy fields are going to go, your manifestations are going to start coming really quick. So we're moving it's quantum now. Everything is quantum. We're moving out of that Capricorn Earth. We're moving to that's why AI, crypto, and all this stuff is coming out. And you're starting to see the separation in consciousness, right? And they said, two people in a field, one will go up, a believer, and the one will stay down. It's not the essence of you're going to see your family member go up in the sky. It's a separation of consciousness, right? There's going to be that, you got the left versus right. Whatever you believe in, I believe you. It's not, you believe
Okay,
whatever
you're
you.
the first person explaining this to me where I understand it, because that's what when I hear people
Mhm.
talking about that, I'm like, okay, I don't believe that, like, people, like, I'm going to see
Mhm.
people go up in the sky, but that makes sense. The levels, I'm already seeing that, like, in
Mhm.
my life, where certain
Yep.
people are raising their consciousness, other people, it's like no matter what. I mean, you can show them like
Mhm.
anything and they are not there.
That's the separation. It's this year it's biblical. I mean, biblical, scientific, whatever you believe in. We're in an era where we have to shift. Consciousness has to shift. Like the old era is dying off, and in the age of Aquarius, it comes in September. That's what Jesus told us. A man with a pitcher is coming. Jesus said that. Christ said that, and that's the age of Aquarius. And it's a renewing of the mind. It's a renewing, and the next 100 years is going to be about manifestation and connection and quantum science and religion coming together. That's going to be a normal thing in the next 10 years. Like where, Dr. Joe Dispenza did a really good job of kind of bridging that gap. I don't know if you've dove into his
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
Living
Uh-huh.
Supernatural. And like, he was the one that was really back in the days was getting a lot of flack because he's like prayer works. I prayed right before I committed suicide. I say committed suicide. John Boscus died. JV was born. I say committed suicide because that dude's dead. Like that guy, whoever that old past life, I came here to go through that, to transmute this darkness back into light, and what the way I live my life is that, and I don't know, I have no idea. I mean, I'm just doing the best I can to figure this out. But if I do come back, I definitely want to come back at a different frame of mind or a different level of frequency than I did 17 years ago. So that's my aim every day, is just to get a little bit better. And I don't mean better than anybody else, but better in my understanding of my relationship with Christ, being more present. And it's a really important time for people to maybe kind of open up their mind to this, because there's been a lot of the human experience. Like who did Jesus say is the prince of the earth?
I don't know.
the,
I'm
the
not
the the devil, right? So in the Old Testament, it was God was the ruler of the earth. When they flipped to the New Testament, the devil was the prince of the earth. So what does that mean, right? The devil, right? You flip it backwards, it means live. It's just an energy frequency. Like me 17 years ago, I was a demonic individual on those drugs. I mean, there's no other way to there's no if, ands, or buts. I was stealing from my parents' money. I was a dark ass person.
Mhm.
What is the difference between, I had this really neat experience that might explain the energy fields a little bit better. So because this way I like to explain things to people in physical context of a reality that's happening to me, so it's like maybe they can relate to it. So I go to Peru every
Yeah.
single year for 14 days, and I sit in the garden for 14 days. I have all these businesses, so I just completely disconnect for 14 days. And I was sitting in the garden in Peru, and I do this every year, and I was having this very spiritual experience, and I was like, man, I felt Christ. I felt, the Holy Spirit. And I'm just sitting there and I'm praying, and I look over, but it wasn't physical. But I felt it. It was like I was looking at something, and I saw my daughter and I 17 years earlier in the crack house buying drugs. And then I kind of look back at myself, and here I am in Peru. My life is very different now. I have a great relationship with her. She's thriving. I have a great life, a very beautiful life. And I was like, okay, but in that moment, as I'm sitting in a garden in Peru, there's a guy or gal in a drug house with their daughter. So what was the difference between me in a crack house with my daughter versus the guy sitting in the garden? The only difference was getting access to the secret, new knowledge, implementing that knowledge for a new long enough period of time to rewire the subconscious mind to access a new level of frequency or energy. That's all it is. At any point, I can go back down that rung again at any point. So all it is accessing new levels of. So if you want to go somewhere or be somewhere, that knowledge exists. There's a billionaire that exists. There's a millionaire that exists. Once you understand what that activity is, or what that behavior is, what that feeling is, the more you can connect to the field, the quicker you'll get there. So all that the difference between the crackhead JV and the guy sitting in the garden in Peru and the life that I live now is energy. That's it. I just
Yeah.
access, I'm in the same body, the same person, but I'm at a totally different frequency field. It doesn't mean I'm better than the person in the crack house. And it doesn't mean vice versa, right? It just means that everybody has access to this. Like it doesn't even make sense. Like when I was in the crack house, I would have never thought that this life was possible because I didn't
Right.
know that it was possible.
Yeah. No. And I had to ask you something because you had
Yeah.
mentioned how like, demons, like
Mhm.
you felt like demonic in a
Mhm.
sense,
Yep.
because I hear people say stuff like that, but like with regards to the law of attraction, manifestation, like it's you're opening yourself up to um demonic entities or
Mhm.
whatever. But
Mhm.
I don't like, you're the first person I think I've talked to that understands religion, but that
Mhm.
talks about that in a completely different way. Like it's all about us. It's not anything outside of us. It's what we're tuning into and what, right? Like what level
Yeah,
of consciousness we're at. Not that we're
correct.
letting an evil entity inside of us. It's all within like our own control, right?
Correct. The way that I see it, and I don't know if it's correct for anybody else's paradigm. The only thing I can compare is that I was a crackhead 17 years ago. I now have a great relationship with God and Jesus Christ, and I'm financially free, spiritually free. I travel around the world. Like the only thing, and maybe I'm gonna go up to the pearly gates and be like, "You did it incorrect. You're going to hell." Who knows? I don't know. Maybe, but I have done a lot more for humanity in this context of my life than I did before. So they're right in the context that everything is energy. They're right. Okay. So you're letting a demon in. Are you letting a demon in? Or are you lowering your frequency to that level of energy, right? That
Mm,
allows that to
yeah.
come in. That's it. It's just a frequency. Okay. Again, I'll use myself as an example, maybe context. I was a clean cut guy, got out of the military, bodybuilder, clean cut dude, and I have a leg injury, take an opiate, get addicted because I'm insecure little boy, blah blah blah. Then very typical story, get an injury, take one opiate, clean cut person, then I just became a full blown junkie. So clean cut guy takes an opiate, right? Okay. I had good friends. I had my parents, great relationship with my parents. Everything was good. I had a good life. It wasn't a bad life, right? I was a very outstanding citizen. I would drink and stuff, but nothing. I was just a young dude living his life. Nothing. I didn't do unethical things. I didn't even speed. I was just a good person. And
Yeah.
and I take one opiate, okay? Then I start taking two opiates. Then I start taking three opiates. My frequency starts to change. So I go from being a clean, stop hanging out with the same people, right? I start hanging out with my good friends and I start hanging out with people who have access to opiates, right? Very different frequency, right? The next thing you know, for through about 3.5 years later, I'm in crack houses.
Mm.
So was it that I let demons in, or is it that I lowered my frequency to that level where that energy is, right? And then I get access to the secret, which opens me up to a whole new level of consciousness. And then good things start happening to me. So which one is the devil? Is it the drugs that brought the devil in, or is it the secret that brought the devil in? It's really the user of the tool, right? If I'm using the secret to manipulate and manifest weird things, like it's all the intention of the energy that you're portraying. I mean, it really is. It's like, and again, why is there so many religions? Like it's okay. I always tell people, like, the way I believe in Christ, I have a channel called Refined Integrity. It's really causing a lot of a rift, but I don't even read the comments because I'm like, this is how I believe in Christ. This is how I've connected with Jesus Christ. I call him Yeshua. His name isn't even Jesus. They didn't,
Mhm.
they said his name was Jesus, not Jesus. It's Yeshua. And I
Mhm.
call him Christ Jesus because of Christ consciousness, 33 vertebrae, all that stuff. And people are just like, that's blasphemy. But I say to them, okay, awesome. Why do you think that's blasphemy? And I just pause. And they're like, because that's not what I was taught. That's not what the Bible says. I said, okay. So where did you learn what you're telling me is wrong? Well, my pastor told me and this. And I said, okay, so no, why do you believe that? Well, because that's what I learned. No, 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 no. That's not what I'm asking you. Why do you believe that? I said, why I believe what I believe is because I'm practicing what I'm saying. It's coming from truth. I have spent time with Christ. I have practiced his teachings. I have put him into my life. I have seen the improvement. I have practiced the things that he teaches in the Bible. I go and activate on. And they're like, well, yeah, I do the same. I'm like, okay, then if you're doing the same thing, then you're not operating like Christ because you would not spend an ounce of your time judging me. And they're like,
Yes. Oh
I'm
my
like,
gosh. You like everything you're saying, it just, I really appreciate it because it's things that I feel like I know, but since I'm not into religion as deeply, like I'm very spiritual, I feel like I always have a hard time sort of explaining this because I get asked a lot. Like there's a lot of, people that are interested, but they're like, well, my church says this, and but I think the way you're explaining it, it makes so much sense. You can't really argue with it, I mean, I
yeah,
think
well,
everything boils down to energy too, and I can feel your
yes.
energy. It's
Well,
amazing.
thank you. That's what, okay. The religious people that we talk to, and so I get a lot of pushback around that. But I asked them, I say, you love Jesus, right? And they're like, yeah. I said, I love Jesus too. I said, I love Jesus. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, what religion was Jesus? And they're like, I'm like, well, what religion was Jesus? They're like he wasn't. He didn't have a religion. I said, what church did he hang out in? And they're like, mm. I'm like, well, he did hang out in the synagogues at 12 years old. He was spitting fire on these preachers. And then he finally said, after he takes off and he leaves somewhere for 18 years. And I said, also, let me ask you a question. Where did he go for 18 years? Well, they say there was a lost years of Jesus. I said, if my friend was lost, if Stephanie was lost for 18 years, I'd be like, where have you been? What are you doing? Well, there was people that asked him what he was doing and wrote things down. The book of Thomas, and they say, oh, it's blasphemy. The book of Thomas, seek and you will find, the first verse. Find and you'll be dismayed, you'll be disturbed. Once you're disturbed, you'll be astonished, and then you'll realize that you're the king. He comes back, and it's in the story. He comes back on a donkey. Donkey represents humility. He was humbled. Whatever, I get chills when I talk about this. He was gone for 18 years. Whatever he learned humbled the heck out of him. Comes back, he flips over the money changers in the synagogues. He goes into the synagogue, said, you've made this place a den of thieves. He's not talking about like they're in their gambling and stuff. He's talking about their minds. Your minds are dirty. You're trying to teach people how to, like, you're disconnecting them from God. Like, what are you doing? Then he said, sit in the back of the church till you're invited to the front. He wasn't invited to the front. He said, go from village to village. And I'm paraphrasing a lot of this stuff. If they don't listen to you, just keep going. Then he's sitting in with the disciples. This is key. There's 12 disciples. You have 12 cranial nerves in your brain. Okay. He's sitting with the disciples. Jesus is always sitting in the middle. Okay. The supper, he's sitting in the middle. Judas, judgment, was on the right hemisphere in the brain, blocking him, pushing him to the left hemisphere. We can go deep into this. I love this stuff because it's all encoded in the Bible. He's sitting there with his disciples. They say, your mother and brother are outside. He said, they're not my mother and brother. Therefore, they do not think like me. Just frequency, just energy. I'm with my tribe. This is my 12 disciples. They believe like me. My mother and brother don't think like me. They're not in my, it's just energy. It's vibration. Christ is so real. And then this goes into manifestation. They're sitting in a boat, right? All Christians know this story. They're in a boat, right? And they're casting their nets to the right, to the left. Sorry, very important. And Jesus is floating on the water, right? He's standing there and they're in this storm. They're scared. He's like, hey guys, cast your nets to the right. And they're like, they're in the same ocean, not catching anything on the left. You brought up the brain, right? The masculine, the brain. Okay, this is really important because you're 100% right.
I'm getting chills already. I know where you're going with this.
So they cast their nets to the right and they catch 153 fish. Well, why would they say 153 fish? 1 + 5 + 3 is 9. It's the highest level of consciousness. They catch an abundance of fish. Then he tells one of them to walk out on the water. And at first he's good, but as soon as he loses faith, he sinks down into the lower mind. And Christ is above. He's ascending above the water because he has mastered the mind. He has ascended. He's an ascended master. Jesus was a Gnostic redeemer. So he catches 153 fish. 1 + 5 + 3 is 9, the highest level of consciousness. If you go up the 9 and curve back around, it curves to the right hemisphere of the brain. 6 + 6 + 6, the devil. Everybody's like, the devil is 666. 6 + 6 + 6 = 18. 1 + 8 is 9. Flip that upside down. You go down the 6, you curve to the left hemisphere of the brain. It's left hemisphere, right hemisphere of the brain. If you're stuck in the left hemisphere of the brain, facts, figures, numbers, logic, I can't, I won't. You're right. It's lower frequency. And what happens when you don't believe? You lose faith. Moses goes up and to the right. He didn't see, somebody correct him. He didn't see God. He saw God pretty close to God, enough where he could talk to God and tell him everything wrong with him. And God's like, no, dude, you're made in my likeness. And what are you talking about? He goes, so he takes a snake and it turns into a staff. Why does a snake keep showing up in the Bible? Snake, Kundalini, the doctors have it on their cross. A snake, the Kundalini. They mastered the Kundalini. He got to the pineal gland. His eye was filled with light. He was renewed. God told him, from this point on, my name is the great I am. The great I am. What secret? What you put behind the words I am becomes your truth. He goes down to the slaves, enslaved in their mind. He has a staff. He mastered the Kundalini. So he has confidence. He walks in. Like you said, you can feel energy, right? They walk up. This dude puts his staff down. He says, you're coming with me, Israelites. They're like, okay, we something we're vibing with. Let's go. So they all take off and the soldiers are chasing. Then they get to the Red Sea. Then right in the middle of the Red Sea, boom, he opens up their mind, left and right hemisphere of the brain. He takes them through the Red Sea. It closes on the soldiers. This is my own interpretation. It closes on the soldiers. They go out into the desert. They're super excited. They got freed as slaves. That's amazing. And then all of a sudden they're in the desert. What did you do to us? They lose faith. They're free. They're not slaves anymore, but they're complaining now because they're in the desert. They're never happy. So what does God do in the Bible? He sends snakes to bite them. Just like when we complain and we're bitching and complaining about what we have, and then everything falls apart. That's just the way that I see it, because that's how it's showing up in my life. It's like, okay, JV, like, you went from crackhead to this life that you live now. How did you do it? So I had to whittle it down to what did I do? Like, I just believe more than most people.
Join us at the Creation Museum on September 20th for Beyond Bones, The Truth About Dinosaurs. This special one-day conference is all about these magnificent creatures of the past. So whether you're a dinosaur enthusiast or just have questions about how to understand dinosaurs from a biblical worldview, this conference is for you. Recommended for ages 12 and up, but all ages are welcome. Register at getanswers.org/beyond-bones.
I just believe, like I tell people, we're going to build $1 billion ecosystem. But what does that mean? It has nothing to do with Lambos and Ferrari. I mean, I'm not even wearing shoes right now. I'm like a super hippie, but like, it's about the $1 billion ecosystem is freedom and resources. And I live in that field, right? Now, it doesn't mean, like, for example, we have quite a few companies, and right now we're having a cash flow problem with one of them. It's like, it's stressful. It's still stressful, but I still never stop believing that we're going to be $1 billion ecosystem, because it comes from internal to external. If you can't get into the heart and feel it, it will never be created, because we're creators. And you brought up the masculine brain, right? You're 100% right. Left hemisphere of the brain is the women are subconscious. They're right hemisphere. You guys create life. Men were like monkeys. We go out there and we manifest and we build. And we need the divine feminine and the divine masculine. The divine feminine brings things into life. We go out there and hit rocks and hit nails and stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I can build this. And then we come back and like, okay, how do I build this? And you guys are like, okay, put it here, do this. And it's really cool. And then what's happening in this world right now, and in this context, what we're talking about, but we're just out of balance. That's all it is. That's all that's happening. And what you're watching is a rebalancing of divine feminine, divine masculine. And it's going to get really dark. It has to. It's part of the human condition. Same thing when they crucified Jesus. It was like, man, could you imagine how dark that was during that time?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's kind of a representation of that happening right now, right?
Yeah.
You got the believers that are like, no, they're trying to da-da-da-da. And it's like, and what he says to them, that makes me emotional talking about it, man. They're like stabbing him. And he's like, please forgive them, for they know not what they do. He's like, they don't know that they're me. They don't know that they don't know that they have all the tools. And he's just like, Father, please. And again, he's in the middle of two people, in the middle. And then when they crucified him, I think it was Herod that was standing in front of all the people. You had Jesus was on the right. Jesus is always on the right hemisphere of the brain. It's right there. And then there was only, I'm paraphrasing, so I apologize if there's theologians listening, they're going to flip out on me, but there was a moment where Jesus goes through this whole process, right? So they say, sorry, am I going too long with this?
No, keep going. I'm like right there with you.
Like, think about what happened. Okay. So when Herod knew that there was a Gnostic Redeemer coming, I hopefully I'm using the right, I don't want to offend people with Gnostic Redeemer, a knowing Redeemer, Christ was coming. They knew it by the North Star. Astrology. People say astrology is evil. They found him with the North Star. Okay. So they're going to look for him. So Herod, since they're killing all the children because they're trying to find, so Mary and Joseph, divine feminine, divine masculine, have this child. Well, Mary birthed a virgin child. So they take him and hide him, and he goes running down. I'm going to trip you out on this. So they go running down, right? So your spine has 33 vertebrae. Okay. In your spine, there is a fluid called the Christos. Your audience is this happening too? Joe Rogan's he talked about the emerald tablets. People are starting to wake into this. And trust me, the upper people know this. This thing called Christos, Christ, an oil that runs down your body, down your spine every 28 days. It follows the lunar cycle, moon cycle. It depends on your birth and all that. It goes down your spine. There's 33 vertebrae in your spine. So Jesus runs from Herod down the spine to the sacrum, to the bottom. Then he rises back up and he goes through this whole process. He's a child. He goes 18 years. He comes back knowing that he's going to be crucified. When this Christos oil, you can all look this up scientifically, hits the vagus nerve, which is a cross in your brain, and Jesus was crucified on the mountain of Golgotha, which is the skull, the oil dies and it raises back up 2.5 to 3 days. Jesus died at 33 on the mountain of Golgotha on a cross and rose back up 3 days. He was teaching us the process that happens in our body. We are the same as the stars. We are the same as the earth. We are, you nailed it, divine feminine, divine masculine. The two become one. We are just creation. That's what we are. Trying to remember that's who we are. You said it. Like we are just remembering. And then when you're about to die, you're like, oh my God, I've been lied to my whole life.
Is that why you think you prayed
100%.
before? Yeah, you were like
100%.
remembering at that last moment.
I remembered who, oh my God, I can't talk about it.
I have like massive chills right now.
I remembered. Yeah, I did, because that's what, there's no other way I could have came back from that. How much I took a mass, I injected into my, I mean, it was bad. And I was like, I came back and I don't even know how to explain it. I don't even know. All I can explain is the knowing, like I know who Christ is. I think we all do. Like, I'm not saying that, like, I believe that every single person has the ability to be an ascended master, not over anybody, but that's what Jesus' story is. He was like, every person he ran into, he was like the guy with the mat. He's like paralyzed on a mat. He goes up to him and they're like, don't go in there. The Pharisees, I don't remember. I think it was the Pharisees. And there, he wasn't scared of anybody. He walked in there, he goes, hey, dude, that fountain's not going to save you. Everybody's jumping over him because he's paralyzed. And he goes, do you want to be saved? And the guy's like, yeah. He goes, pick up your mat and walk, dude. Like, do you want to be saved? Jesus wasn't, he was teaching people how to heal themselves. He was like, you just got to believe, man. The blind man, he's like, take this mud. He's like, well, if I tell him that if he puts this mud on his face, maybe he'll believe it. So he gave him some placebo. He's like, he puts mud on his face. Oh my God. What he did is he had to be told that this thing was going to heal him. So he believed it. So he puts the mud on his eyes and then he believed that it would heal him. He believed that it would heal him. Christ couldn't heal him. It's just this story of like redemption all the time. And it's like, I feel that's what the human experience is. We come here as a human, a hue of light. And the more you tap in and tune in, that light expands and you can see things more clearly. And then you get to the point where you look like the fool. And when you look like the fool, then you probably made it. When people are like, oh, you're an idiot. Oh, you're a hippie. Da, 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 da. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate it. And because
like, that's the best compliment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was wearing a suit. I mean, I was an executive at a bank. I mean, we haven't gotten the whole story. Like I went from there to a VP at a bank, and that's when I had my awakening. I mean, it's Cinderella story, suicide to VP at a bank, and I was miserable wearing the suit, 535i BMW. You know, I still have nice cars and stuff now, but it was like my whole identity had the suit, the combed over hair. I was an executive, and I'm like, this is life. Like, this is it. And I was like, no, there's something more to this, man. And I started to really tap in and tune, and it was like, and imagine I walk out of corporate America, a VP job, high paid VP job, to be this. And so when people look at me that know me, they think I'm a fool. But the difference is this JV, they don't even know that I have 7-figure ecosystems. I don't even have to explain it to anybody anymore. It doesn't matter. The old JV would be like, I made $1 million companies. Da, 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 da. I don't care.
Yeah, you're just living your life the way you want to live it.
And if it all falls apart, that's my business. If it's doing well, that's my business. And I think that what we need to see within this world is divine feminine and divine masculine. Especially, I'll speak to men specifically. I'm like a guy, but men need to step up in their divine masculine. That's something I've been.
Yeah, I feel like masculinity's been under attack
big time
for a long time, but then it's like the opposite with women. Women are expected, no, you go be a boss babe and like be in your masculine. But then with men, it's like, no, don't do that. That's toxic. And I feel like we have gotten all out of whack.
Yep. And the only way to come back is to go internal. If everybody just went internal and got their shit together, all this would stop. Right. But everybody's trying to tell everybody else to get their shit together. It's like Biden's like Trump as well, though. Who knows what's going on with that now? But Biden's telling Trump he's wrong. Trump's telling Biden is wrong. Imagine this. I had this awakening. I was in deep experience one time. And I was like, imagine if we all we get into a field, right? And we all come together and we look each other in the eyes and we say, I'm like, you're awesome. I'm awesome. Period. The end. Everything else is an opinion. Starting tomorrow, I'm going to go get my shit together. You go get your shit together. That's it. You're awesome. I'm awesome, period, the end. And let's go get our shit together. It would end everything, but that's not the human condition, right?
Right.
The thing we don't like in others and we hate in others is usually the thing we need to work on in ourselves. It's a mirror reflection. And what we call it the mirror concept. So when you level up, they're going to reflect you or they're going to reject you. It's none of your spiritual business. And that's the hardest shift in the spiritual walk, because for me to be expressing this on, I have a spiritual channel that I have, and it's like, I mean, I'm sure my family members are seeing this and they're like, dude, this guy is out of his mind. Hey, reflect me and reject me. That's none of my spiritual business. I still love you. Like, I don't care that you don't believe in God. Like, that doesn't, I don't care, you were raised Catholic. That's fine if you believe that. It has none of my business what you believe and what you're doing with your family. Like, I'm not going to sit there and go, you should believe in Christ consciousness. Like, I don't think everybody should believe this way. It takes up like 99.9% of my thoughts every 5 seconds. I mean, every day I think about this. I sleep, I dream about it. I wake up thinking about it. And I think sometimes maybe ignorance is bliss, man. Because it's something
I think that all the time.
Yeah. Yep.
Because sometimes I'm like, man, it's great knowing all this, but sometimes it's like a lot, because there's so, you want everyone to have this knowledge and to like expand their consciousness. And it's hard when the people around you just won't do it.
Yeah. And that's where everything changed for me. I love that you said that. When I was getting access to this new knowledge, I wanted to let everybody know about it. And I wanted to make sure I'm like, everybody should be doing this. Everybody should be doing this. But I noticed nobody would do it. Then I had this moment where I looked in the mirror and I said, you know what, JB? Are you truly doing it? Like, are you really, really, really living it? And I just decided to stop talking about it and I started to be about it. Like, I started to practice it at a deep, deep level. I was looking for everybody. I found nobody. And then I found myself and we went viral, like completely viral. I mean, we went from like 300 followers across, like on each platform, maybe 300 followers to, it was like 1 million followers in like 12 months. And it was like, what the hell happened? But we kept hearing from the customers, from people like, JV, I like your authenticity. And the highest level of frequency is authenticity, gratitude, and unconditional love. That is the highest level of consciousness. And I was like, that's what I've been learning about, because now I'm just me. Like we just went to a gala. We have an insurance company. We won a bunch of awards and stuff. And everybody's like, are you wearing a tux? I'm like, no. No, I wanted to wear the tank top, but out of respect and not just be a complete asshole. I was like, I got a black shirt. I wore my tennis shoes and I just wanted to be comfortable because I don't feel like I have to wear a tux to a gala.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, my partner looked stunning. I was like, you can dress up. You can look beautiful. I don't want to embarrass you. She looked stunning, but I wore an all black outfit and my tennis shoes. And I saw the way people were looking at me, but it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is how I show up to, meeting with multi-million-dollar clients. I show up in a tank top and some prayer beads and like, hey, how you doing? Let's talk about your finances. And they're like, at first they're like, what the heck? But then it's energy. I immediately just get in the conversation and, it's like, hey, if I put on a suit, would it change things for us? Like, do you want to see the car that I drive, the house that I live? Will that help you? Like, do you want me to post that? Like, it's just, that's the problem with society. It's an image. And the truth is, the more someone shows their stuff, usually the less they have. That's what I've learned. And the less somebody shows their stuff, the more they have.
Right. Right. Because once you start attaining those things, it's like you kind of realize like, that's not really what I was after. And then you go through that whole process of like, no, I was after maybe like freedom, or I want to be home with my kids more. Like I went through all that too. And now it's like, I was into the designer handbags and the luxury cars. And now I really don't care about any of that stuff, but it's almost like I had to go through that to realize what's really important.
And I love the essence of it too. It's like really the intention. I love fast cars. I love fast cars. And, I drive a fast car. I will always drive a fast car. And so I love, like someday I'll have a beautiful supercar. But the difference is the guy, even 4 years ago, would be like, hey, look at me. I drive a supercar. But the guy now loves driving fast. The design of the car, seeing my son just light up. We love fast cars. We're adrenaline junkies. It's more of the experience versus how do you see me, right? And so that's where everything changed for me. It's like, and nice stuff is okay. It's asking yourself, like, what are the intentions of the things that you're getting? Did you buy a big ass house to impress people, or did you buy it because you wanted a bunch of room with your kids and letting just that there's nothing wrong with nice things. It's always goes back to the intentions of it, right? And I get caught in that loop all the time, man. I know that's like, I'll buy something. I'm like, why did you buy that, dude? Like there might be a little boy still stuck inside you that wants a little bit of edification. And that's the human experience, right? And I think that's what is disillusioned about spirituality, is that people start to become spiritual and they think that, like, a thing that I get all the time is, JV, it's so much blasphemy that you talk about becoming a millionaire and you talk about Christ. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you can't be wealthy and be spiritual. It seems
Right.
counterintuitive. Why would you be spiritual and poor?
Yep.
Like, and that's not disrespect, I'm saying, because there's people in third world countries that are super spiritual and they just don't have access to the resources. That's it. That's all it is. It's not, I'm sure if they had access to the resources, they would do the same thing that I'm doing. Right. And it's
Right.
just, I don't know. It's just such an interesting thing. And again, that stuff, you just have to, when you're going through this awakening, if anybody chooses to go through this awakening, first they'll judge you, then they respect you, then they follow you, or they abandon you. And it's usually follow. It's usually
They usually
ask.
ask you how you did it. Like once you
Yep.
get to that point, then they want to learn from you, right?
Yeah, because when you start to like, because the only thing that I'm speaking from, and I say this, Stephanie, from the bottom of my heart, I'm speaking from my truth. This is only my truth. That's it. And when you speak from that essence, people eventually will be like, I want that. And I said, well, you don't want what I have. You want what's true for you.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to do that is to push yourself and experience and try things. That's the only way to do it. We know we have a Warrior Academy, blah, blah, blah. I can take you through my 120 challenge, but it's like the whole challenge is to become you. That's a
Yeah.
challenge. Well, I want to be like JV. Well, grow a beard. I don't know. No more shoes. I mean, I still have issues. I still have like mental breakdowns, but I do have better tools in my tool belt to get myself through it. Right. I just said my breakdowns would last 3 months and now maybe the last 48 hours. Right. And I just have better tools and better resources, better people around me, because you're aiming for perfection, knowing it's not possible. There's only one person that walked this earth perfect, was Christ. And he was the perfect representation of that. But he came to teach us that we're here to experience the imperfection.
Oh, I love that. I love that you can say that, like that you're not perfect, but you have
Mm,
the tools and you're trying your best every day. Tell me, well, first of all, I have one question I ask everyone, like towards
yeah.
the end of the interview. What are you currently manifesting in your life? Like, what's your
Mm.
next thing that you're excited about?
Great question. Oh, I love that question. Okay, so it used to be, and I'm going to be fully honest and transparent, and this is when my manifesting really accelerated. So it used to be, I want to manifest financial freedom for myself, for myself, for myself, for myself, myself. And we got there, but it seemed to be like this slow moving thing. And then I shifted to, which my manifestation is now, is I want financial freedom for every single human being that's in contact with me. And it's actually on a prayer flag that I put up within our gym, and everything flipped for me. So for me, my manifestation is freedom for every single person I come in contact with. And what that means is giving them access to the tools, whether it's financial resources, education, schooling systems, whatever it is, opportunity in business, to tap in and tune in to understand that freedom is available for them. That's my manifestation every day. I'm like, how can I find or be aligned with ecosystems or businesses or people, places, things that can allow my people around me to be free? Because I want everybody to feel what I'm feeling. But I do know I can't do the work for them. So that is my true manifestation. I realize when you start manifesting a level deeper, it comes much faster, because now you're quantifying yourself over and over again, right? And ironically, the businesses that I'm involved in now, it's all about working together, and it's like, it's really cool. So, and I really, really, I mean, if you want to go deeper, this may sound weird to people, but I don't know what happens. I don't know if we reincarnate. I don't know. But if we do, I'm manifesting into my next life. And so what I mean by that, and this is, I'm very clear on this. What I mean by that is I'm repairing everything within this human experience so that I never have to repeat that again. For example, in my next lifetime, I'm going to meet my love of my life in like third grade. And we're going to have tons of kids and a farm. And we're going to be having one of those marriages. Everybody's like, oh my God, we're going to be those grandparents. Like, I'm going to fix everything. This is my life to fix all those things. So it's going to be bumpy because there's a lot of shit I got to repair. There was a lot of darkness that happened to me as a child. There's a lot of bad seeds that I planted, but I'm manifesting to that lifetime, to a future lifetime where I meet my partner in third grade, where we stay together. It's just that relationship that everybody desires, right? But it's true. That's the type. And that's how far I'm manifesting. So that means that I have to repair things in this lifetime. And that means there's going to be a lot of work in this lifetime. So when darkness is presented to me, I'm like, that's in alignment for what I'm manifesting in the future. So it's for me to transmute that darkness, whether it's people, places, things, relationships, conversations, lust, anything, whatever it is. I have to master all that stuff in this lifetime to get that life. And so that's, and I don't know if that's even possible. That's what I'm pretending. And I hope that by pretending, and it has actually improved my life because I'm pretending I'm like, okay, if I mess this up now, I'm not going to get that. If that
Yeah.
makes sense. It's just a
Oh,
deeper level. Yeah.
100%. I'm
So
just like, my mind is blown right now because only a truly awakened person would give that answer. I've never heard that answer before, but man, like that's now you're going to have me thinking about my next life, you know? I mean, that's pretty profound because I do believe we come back and I do believe that every lifetime we're learning. Like that's our soul is growing. And I mean, man, like manifesting your next lifetime, that's just like next level. I mean,
well, yeah, it is.
that's like
Yeah,
the best answer I've ever
thank
gotten.
you. Thank you. I just, it's something I think about a lot because, and I do very conscious about my decisions, very, very conscious about my decisions, especially being a male and like, what I look at on the internet, what I text, I have a partner. So I'm very careful with, we interact with a lot and we coach a lot of people. So, if it's a female, what I text that female, am I opening the door by saying this or giving a compliment? Because I feel like all those things will affect because a seed planted, like it's the roots, then the fruit, right? The fruit come last.
Right.
So I'm planting the roots for the fruit next time. And so I think that I'll pick parents that are in alignment with that next time, right? Then my parents are phenomenal. My parents are great. It has nothing to do with them, but they also, I picked them for their lessons they need to learn, right? Like my pops and I don't have the greatest relationship, but we're both healing through this, right? It's like I'm a great father because of him, because we didn't have a good relationship. And so I think that's why I picked him so that I could learn these things because my old self that knew that I wanted that next life. Who knows? Like I love what you
No,
said.
I think it's such a great way to look at things. And it's all a learning experience and, plant those roots now. I mean,
Yeah.
I like you've blown my mind. I'm going to be thinking about this just so like the rest of I'm going to be lying awake at 3 a.m. thinking about
Well,
this.
thank you too. And I have to be honest with you. Like I'm so, man, I'm getting emotional. Like I'm good. We're going through some stuff right now. I think a lot of people are, right? And so this like reinvigorated me, to be honest, because it was like, because here's this is why some people get in a van and become hippies and drive around because they think because they want to stay in that state of mind. You can't stay in that. It's just, you shouldn't do that. Like,
Yeah.
so here's the thing, like when you're running, you become successful and you got the businesses and we have 6 companies now. And it's like, we have a 19% inflation. We have one company that's struggling right now. So we're like, oh, it's a lot of stress, a lot. I'm the CEO of all these companies. And I'm like, and you just reminded me like, dude, go back to the basics, dude. I'm throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like I'm worried and I'm stressed and I'm like, what the hell are you doing, dude? You're completely against what you just talked about. But that's the human experience. We forget what we already know. So you just reminded me how to fix the issue that I'm facing because I just have to remember what I already know. I'm trying to look for something, but the solve isn't here. It's already here. It's the same solve that how we got there when I was brand new to this and I believed and I was manifesting. Now I'm in it and we're having some trouble and I forgot how to manifest it. Like, thank you, by the way, because I needed this podcast. I was like, oh my gosh.
No, thank you. Like you said, reinvigorated. That's exactly how I feel right now. And it's so funny because I feel everything you just said, I feel the same way. From when you first started talking about The Secret. It's like it brought me back to why I got into all this in the beginning. And sometimes, like I'll look into things so deeply that I forget the basics. I forget like
Yep.
take it back to the simplest form, like The Secret. That's why I love it. It's so simple, but it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be difficult, you know?
Yeah,
You
it's
kind of
going.
reminded me of that. And I think we both, I can feel this
Yeah,
energy. Like
yeah,
we are
yeah.
both on fire right now.
It's the Genesis. You got to go back to the Garden of Eden. The Adam and Eve they were just in the garden, man, having a great time. I'm actually traveling with my kids. You know, like I'm so grateful I did this right now. We actually fly out tomorrow to go to a lake house for a week, and I'm like, there's all this stress coming up to this, and I'm like, oh, I'm letting it go, man. I'm completely surrendering and letting it go. Like if it's here when we get back, it'll be here when we get back, and it'll probably be much better if I just let it go. Right? Because I'm manifesting that. I'm causing the stress. I'm stressing the team out. It's me.
And when
It's
you're
coming.
on that vacation with your kids, you're probably going to come back and like everything's going to be so much better because your state of mind and the way you
Yeah.
feel is going to be
Then
so
the
much better.
ideas will come easy and
Mhm.
like, yeah, man, I'm so grateful right now because it's just, and that's one thing that I want, because I also want to speak truth because, you know, people hear these podcasts and we come on and we talk our highlight reels, right? But I
Yeah.
want to be honest, man. Like, it's not the highlight reel right now. I'm in a low frequency. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on,
Mhm.
but we know that we have the tools to pull ourselves out. That's the difference,
Yeah.
right? And I hope everybody can see that just by being honest and transparent about that. Like, just because you learn this stuff, or you know, you see people at church and you know, like, you know, they're a Christian because they go to church and they flip somebody off on the freeway. It's like it's a wave of energy, man. That's just
Yeah.
like I always tell people, and like we're heavy into investing. I tell people, I'm like, have you ever seen a market go straight up all the time? No. Have you ever had your relationship perfect all the time? No. Have you ever just started a business and just makes millions of dollars and prints money? The only person that can do that is the federal government, not us. But just kidding. But that comes to an end too. Like
Yeah.
look what's
Look,
happening, right?
look right now. Yeah,
Yes, yeah,
exactly.
it works until it doesn't. And then
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, sometimes you just need to change. It's not that big of a deal. I'm talking to
Right.
myself, by the
No, I
way.
agree. I had this you know, maybe a year or two ago where I was constantly chasing that high vibration, high vibration. And like anytime I was negative, it's like, oh my gosh, like I'm teaching this stuff and I can't even be like positive or whatever. Everything's a cycle. What goes up
Yes.
must come down. And then you use the tools and you get back up. And it's all just a cycle that we're supposed to experience. We're
I
supposed to
love
experience
that.
it all, you know?
I love that. That's
Um,
what I call spiritual psychosis when these people get spiritual and they're like, everybody looks at him like as this, I don't know what you want to call it, like a guru, right? And it's like, and then you find out when you get to know the guru, like when my partner got to know me, she's like, "You're a little crazy." I'm like, "I am crazy." I'm like, "Thank you." And it's like I try to be as honest as I can on my social and stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, you're my better half. You're my partner. I'm gonna tell you everything. Like, whoa, like, yeah, it's an illusion, isn't it? Like,
you
wow,
have to be delusional though.
you
Like
have to. Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
best.
Mhm.
Yeah, I anyone that's like delusional, I'm like, yes, you're my people. Like
Yes,
you
yes.
get it, you
and
know?
and I just think too, like for social, I'll leave this with people that's why I'm so honest about these things because everybody's comparing themselves to highlight reels. You got to stop doing that. Like your favorite influencer, your favorite guru, your favorite Eckhart Tolle, I guarantee he goes through some shit. Like they all go, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I'm sure, you know, he has it all figured out. That's what we think. And I guarantee him and his wife fight and they have issues,
Right.
you know? And so it's like that's the only issue with social because I think it's great because, you know, you can use it for good. But it's like, I get there where I'm like, oh man, like, oh, we got this, you know, we hit now Next is hitting 1 million on you. Why is he hitting 1 million on YouTube? And I'm only at 150,000. It's like, dude, let it go, dude. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is this present moment as we move forward. Like, that's all it really is. Everything's unfolding based on this present moment. That's all it is. It's like the past is depression, the future is anxiety, right? So it's like if you're stuck in the past, you're always depressed. If you're worried about the future, then you're stuck in anxiety. And then you're ruining the whole moment that is actually the creation, which is now. So,
Yeah. Well, and that's I
mm,
really appreciate you sharing
yeah.
not your highlight reel, but the ups and the downs. And, you know, it's just so refreshing. I haven't had a conversation like this in the longest
Thank
time.
you.
I want to keep you longer. I won't though, but I feel like we could talk all day. So, you know, you're invited to come back anytime
Yeah, I
you
would
want.
love to. Yeah, we'll continue this
Just
conversation. I
I
would
could
love
talk
to.
about this stuff for hours. I really could.
Yes.
I love it. I feel so, like you said, like reinvigorated,
Me too.
re-energized. I feel great right now. So
Me
thank you.
too. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you mentioned your Warrior Academy. Is that just for guys? Are women
Everybody.
invited? Like, where can everyone find you? Give us all
Thank
the
you.
details.
Yeah, so it's thank you for allowing me to do that. Yeah, it's for everybody. It's for everybody. Our average age group is 35 to 7 years old, executives, women, men, everybody, all walks of life. It's the 3T Warrior Academy in the essence. So 3T as in Tom, warrioracademy.com, or you can just type in Coach Junior Varsity JV, Coach JV, and Google, all my stuff will come up. The essence of it is it's basically I created a whole ecosystem from the inside out. I teach people macroeconomics, how money works, investing, diversification, but also how to get your shit together spiritually, mentally, health wise. So it's from the inside out. So it's like a whole body mind transformation. And then we get our budget in order, and then we get our house in order, and then we work to become divine feminine, divine masculine throughout the process. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I want to like get my husband on board and we can both join that, because
There you go. That'd
if
be
there's
awesome.
someone I want to learn from, it's you. Like,
Oh, thank
seriously,
you.
this was
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Thank you so much for coming
Thank
on. I
you.
really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's an honor.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, I will link everything in the show notes for everyone so you can go and follow along. And thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll see you back here next time.
If you enjoyed the episode, then pay it forward and share it with a friend. It's the best thing you can do to support the podcast and help share the law of attraction with other people. If you want more manifestation hacks, tips, and resources, then head over to my Instagram page at the Law of Attraction Tribe, or download the Manifest It Now app and check out my over 200 manifestation resources and tools. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you back here next